Good afternoon, everyone, and we are back with our next episode of Moms Like Me, powered by Support Now. In today's episode, it's going to be a little bit different. One of the things that we've noticed is we support a lot of moms through Support Now, and a lot of moms that are going through both pregnancy and postpartum, and more specifically, that fourth trimester that we know is so often overlooked, but oftentimes the most challenging of trimesters that women and moms endure. And so I wanted to bring on a guest today that could talk through some things that are a little bit more specific to postpartum. And so today's guest is Ashley Sorenson. And so, Ashley, I'd love for you to share a little bit more about who you are and what brings you here today.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me on today. I'm so excited. I am a core and pelvic floor corrective exercise specialist. So, big long spiel to say that I help women in the fourth trimester, like you were saying, with their core and pelvic floor. So, the reason I got into this, I am a mom. I have been married since 2013. First pregnancy, I hate saying this, but my first pregnancy was easy. It was smooth, by the book, textbook, everything happened at the right times, like, everything was great. I buttoned up my jeans a couple months later, felt like I had this in the bag, everything was gonna be great for me, and then my second pregnancy at about 17 weeks, I was a group fitness instructor, and so I was teaching group fitness classes, I was hanging out with my clients, having a great time, and I tried to do a sit-up, and I noticed that, like, my abs were really weird, like, everything felt really weird. Um, Come to find out that was diastasis recti, and that was my first experience with it. But as a trainer, that became really hard. So during my second pregnancy, this was 2017, I started having pain, and I had pain in my pelvis. But I also had a 2-year-old, and so when I would walk upstairs to take her to bed, everything was so uncomfortable, and everything hurt, and my hips hurt. But I'm a trainer, and I was a group fitness instructor, so I needed to go to work, and I was still teaching and exercising, but I was in some pretty serious pain afterwards. Fast forward, that kind of kept going throughout my pregnancy, and then postpartum, I was like, "Listen, I can't keep doing this. Everything hurts. My core feels really weird. I feel like I have no control over my pelvic floor, which makes my back hurt." And as someone in the fitness industry, I felt like it wasn't fair for me to teach a group that had pregnant women and just keep doing the same things and saying, "Oh, just keep going." And so that's when I got my certification as a personal trainer, and then I really dove into corrective exercise and how we can kind of put things back together. How we can make sure that if we do have diastasis, how can we still exercise without creating pain? I will say I didn't do it the correct way, and I just pushed through the pain and was kind of suffering after each class I taught, and I knew that I wasn't gonna let somebody else do that. I wouldn't let my clients feel that way. So that's what got me into it.
I think what you said is so interesting too, because I think a lot of women that are pregnant, you tend to first of all, we don't know you don't know going into pregnancy what it's supposed to feel like. And you had a great experience the first time. So the second time you're like, "Well, that's probably a second pregnancy. It's probably this is what it's supposed to feel like the second time around because I'm tired and I'm older and I'm chasing a toddler." And for you, what's super unique is you were a fitness instructor. So I'm sure there was a part of you that's like, I can't feel this pain. I'm too strong for this. I'm too fit for
Yeah,
this. So there's probably these like competing voices in your head, one of which you're saying to yourself something feels off, the other of which is saying you couldn't possibly be off because there's no one better equipped to handle a pregnancy than you. So I am curious, like, is one of your pieces of advice simply like if you feel like something's off, say something? Because I think that women we tend to just assume that this is just that pregnancy is painful and that's it, it is what it is.
yeah, and we have to learn to advocate for ourselves, and that's very difficult, especially when, I didn't feel like I had much to advocate for with my first pregnancy. I was just kinda there, I did what the doctors told me to, but I'm so grateful for this experience because it opened up that thing of like, "Hey, advocate for yourself, ask questions, figure it out. If you don't like the answer, keep digging, keep asking for support." And I remember going to Pinterest and I would be like, here's one person and they say, "Don't ever do planks again." And I'm like, "Okay, I can do that." And then the next one says, "Okay, this is what you're supposed to do to help heal your ab separation." And it says, "Do a plank." And so I'm like, "What?"
And what did you find was your response from your doctor when you went to them? Was your doctor one to say, "Yes, this is a thing. I think I know what's going on," or did you bring it to your doctor? Was it all outside third parties?
So I did bring it to my doctor, and that's where I got, like, the diagnosis. I will say that it was diastasis recti, that it was the separation of the abdomen, and the interesting thing about that is it happens in nearly every single pregnancy. There has to be some sort of separation as our belly grows to create space for baby, right? So there has to be a stretch, a separation, and sometimes what happens is it comes right up together, and sometimes it leaves that big gap. But it's normal. That happens with every pregnancy, and I felt like that was almost discouraging. We hear that all the time. Well, it's normal to have a separation in your abs, or it's normal to pee your pants after you have kids, and that can be super discouraging because what if I don't want that to be my normal? What if I still want to be a fitness instructor who can jump around at the front of the class or lift weights or do whatever without peeing my pants, without being in pain? What if I want to be able to walk my 2-year-old upstairs and tuck her into bed even though I'm pregnant? We can't settle for normal. We have to advocate for ourselves.
Yeah, such great advice. So now in your practice, I mean, what are some of the most common things you hear from the women that you support?
Pain. Pain, discomfort, and we're like, "Oh, I've had this for years." I hear that all the time, like, I've had this since I had my first baby." Well, now my youngest is 11, and I'm finally getting help. Pain, pressure, discomfort, those things are not something that just get that Band-Aid of. It's just because 'cause you're pregnant. There's actually a lot that we can do. There's a lot even if you've been put on modified exercise restrictions. So I had my 3rd baby in 2022, and I was put on a no exercise plan. So I wasn't allowed to lift, I wasn't allowed to run, but I found that, like, just light stretching really helped relieve, like, the tension. And so I feel like there's always something that we can do.
Do you feel like this topic is being discussed enough amongst, like, moms or like, do you feel like moms are opening up more about this in their inner circles?
I think the power of social media is that we moms are opening up about so much more. We're talking more about our mental health, we're talking more about these things. And then we're talking about our physical health, and we're talking about, "Hi hey, I don't want to pee my pants anymore." And so it is getting so much more attention in social media. I think it is coming up in our conversations when you're sitting around at a girls' night and saying, "Hey, does this happen to everyone?" Right? So I love the added attention. I don't think it's enough. I think it needs to be something that is continuously talked about and we're continuously working on until it's almost common knowledge.
I think that's a great point. I think social media has helped a generation of women talk about things that used to be a little bit more private that doesn't necessarily need to be private. I think the question is what's the follow through? So it's always nice to find community and it's nice to find people that believe or experiencing the same thing that you are. And once you recognize what it is, do you feel like you have the tools or the resources and or the confidence to actually go out and to change it? And it sounds like for you, it's like what you're really a proponent of is both. Let's both create a space to talk about it, to acknowledge what's happening to our bodies, how we're feeling about it, and let's actually change it because we don't have to accept this as the new normal, especially moms today. Moms today are so active. We do everything. There's no more just stay at home and that's that. I mean, certainly there are stay at home moms, but even stay at home moms, like we're just doing more than we ever have been. And I think it's almost like moms, like we want to regain that sense of self again. And you don't want to feel like because you've had kids, your body can never feel the same. It will never feel exactly the same, but it doesn't have to feel like you're an entirely different person.
Yeah, absolutely. And doing things with pain or constantly suffering, that doesn't just affect ourselves, that affects our mental health, that affects our children. There are plenty of women out there who say, I can't jump on the trampoline with my kids. And there are also women out there who can't play at the park or who can't run and kick a soccer ball because they're experiencing some of these things. Or they can't sit down on the floor and do puzzles because it makes their back hurt. And that's not only affecting us, that affects our mental health, that affects our children, and so this is something that needs to be talked about and needs to be addressed.
Yeah, it's affecting your entire experience with motherhood, and I think there's so much pressure. Everyone has a perception of what motherhood should feel like, and when you can no longer participate in those things, those activities, as simple as it might be, joining your kid on the floor to do a puzzle, well, now that starts to mess with your psyche because those mismanaged expectations are creating stress and fear and anxiety that doesn't necessarily need to be there.
Yeah, 100%, and it can affect I mean, we are talking about our pelvic floor, so that can affect your intimate relationships, and I say all the time, I don't think that I've seen a client who isn't experiencing both mental and physical effects with pelvic floor dysfunction, because it just is so connected to our mental health, to our relationships, to our quality of life, and our self-esteem.
Yeah, and I do see a trend on social media myself of we're hearing a lot about gut health, and how your gut is your mind. But what you're saying is the same thing, and it's not surprising. It's very similar.
Yeah,
Pelvic core, same thing. It's going to have the same effect on your mental health and your ability to flourish.
100%. We have to have it all. We have to have our gut health in check as well. I know that this can seem like, okay, drink your water, do your exercise. Like we have 1,000 things on our to-do list. And so I just want to bring like attention to the fact that it can be fairly simple. It can be a series of stretches that takes 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 3 times a week. I'm not saying that you need to do pelvic floor specific exercise 7 days a week for 60 minutes a day. Nobody has time for that. Like you said, we're moms, we're doing so much, but bringing awareness to it and then noticing maybe once the pain is gone, you will have the motivation and the exercise or the motivation to exercise more and how that can impact your life.
And what you're saying is such a good point. There's so much that's thrown at moms postpartum. It's like, okay, you have to keep this baby alive. If you're nursing, of course, that's a whole nother feat. On top of running a household, making sure that you've got the groceries and the dog fed and all of these things.
Yeah.
And then if you have, which most people do, to like want to regain support in your core, or perhaps you have like a pelvic issue, now you're adding another layer of responsibility. So to the mom that's listening to this, that's thinking, yeah, I think I have that, but I don't have time. What are some like maybe like easier habits or advice that you have for them that they might be able to incorporate that kind of like eases them into this versus like making them feel like like have to commit in a harsh way to doing this?
Yeah, for sure. So I would actually love to teach everyone a breath practice super quick, and you can incorporate it into everything that you're doing. You can do it while you're sitting down reading a book to your kids, but you can also incorporate it into any time you have to pick something up when you're picking up the laundry basket or whatever. So if you put your hands on your hips, right up by your rib cage. Yeah, we're doing this. We're going for
We're
it.
doing it. People that can't see us, I'm doing
We're
it.
doing it. Yeah. So you're going to take a great big inhale. And as you take an inhale, I actually want everything to expand. So on your inhale, I want your belly to get bigger, your rib cage to get bigger. We're going to fill your entire torso with air. So big inhale. And then as you exhale, we're going to kind of close everything off and imagine a zipper, like the zipper of a hoodie. It's going to zip up from the pelvic floor all the way up to your rib cage as you let all that air out. So big inhale, everything's soft. And then on your exhale, you're going to close and imagine all of those muscles zipping up like a hoodie from the bottom to the top as you let that air out. Okay, so super simple. This is actually engaging your entire pelvic floor. So a lot of times when we think of the pelvic floor, we think about Kegels. Well, Kegels only activate one little tiny muscle that just opens and closes. We want to activate the entire pelvic floor. So this is from the front of your pelvis to your tailbone, all the way around. This is the muscle that's responsible for keeping everything in and up.
Interesting.
And if we practice this, so a lot of times when people are lifting something heavy, if we can practice this breath pattern to where we're going to inhale down and we're going to exhale on the lift, you're actually protecting your pelvic floor. You're actually lifting, keeping the core supported, keeping the pelvic floor supported. So you're not going to add any extra stress on those muscles. The main cause of pelvic floor issues is pressure. So if we can release some of that pressure just by breathing, heck yeah, sign me up, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I love it. And again, like great advice just in general, like easy ways to incorporate that. You're going to be picking things up throughout your day regardless, but when you're doing that, trying to be a little bit more intentional about your breath and making sure that you can alleviate that pressure. And by the way, that's got, I would imagine, benefits for your mental health too, because sometimes we're just go, go, go. You don't even feel like you're breathing throughout the day. Sometimes just taking those breaths also relieves the stress that you feel in your mind as well. So kind of a double whammy there in terms of value back to the mom that's busy running from place to place, running, picking up things. But you can also just, again, and that's that, I'm sure that mind body connection that makes these sort of exercises so powerful.
Yeah, we're gonna activate that rest and digest portion of your brain just by taking a big, big breath. We're in this go, 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 and that's gonna really activate the parasympathetic nervous system where it's like, so now if you're sitting down reading a book and you can practice that full inhale, so this is called the 360 breathing. We're gonna fill the entire core canister up, breathing through your belly, your sides, and your back. And we're gonna take that big inhale, and then we're gonna exhale. Now, maybe you do that 5 times. You're actually strengthening your core and pelvic floor at the same time. So just that breath, maybe do it at a stoplight, maybe do it while you're brushing your teeth. It doesn't take any extra time, but we're bringing mental and physical benefits at the same time.
Ashley, on the mental health piece of this, which I know you're super passionate about, you're a mom of three. How do you support other moms in your friend group's mental health in the fourth trimester?
Yeah, mental health is one of those things, like you said, that is it's getting attention, but it's not getting enough attention until nobody's experiencing it, right? So I think telling someone close to you, whether that be your spouse, a friend, even reaching out to someone, letting someone know that you're struggling, and then creating a plan and a support system for what are you going to do when you're struggling? How are we going to ask for help? It takes a village to raise kids, and we have lost our villages. They're in our phones now. They're in our pockets, not in our home. And that's really hard. I think that that's a big reason why so many moms are struggling. So I have battled postpartum anxiety very severely. Between my second pregnancy, I then had a miscarriage, which led to more anxiety and fear during my following pregnancy, and it's something that comes and goes, and it keeps up, and I think even just beyond postpartum depression and postpartum anxiety, motherhood anxiety and the things that that brings and the pressure that we put on ourselves and the way that it really can take such an effect on our mental health.
Yeah. And I love what you said. It's like our support systems live on our phones and not in our homes anymore. And that's a really important thing to call out and acknowledge. That's so different than the way our parents raised children, which is very different than the way our grandparents raised children, certainly. And not to lose sight of the fact that there are people that want to be there for you, and you have to find that line of inviting them into your home or allowing them to do what they want to do, because everyone knows that's been a mom how hard those first 12 weeks are. It's all hard, but certainly those first 12 weeks, especially if it's a first baby and you're trying to figure it out. So if you have a mom that's been there before that wants to do the things that they know could be helpful, try to let them. Because that's also what I think alleviates a lot of the anxiety that comes about in postpartum, because it's tied to loneliness. And so it's kind of this like odd cycle of, we're going through, you're feeling this anxiety, so you want to retreat, but that by retreating, you're actually creating more of a bubble. And that bubble is making it harder for the people that want to deposit support to get there to help you. Does that resonate at all with your experience?
100%, and it just kind of snowballs downward from there, right? You're gonna recluse, you're gonna stay on your own, you're not gonna ask for any help, and then you start to spiral down, and that's why I said I think the first step is reaching out to someone and saying, "Hey, there is such a benefit from having our communities and our phones, like this podcast, right? Like, how amazing is it that we're on different ends of the country and we're able to have this conversation and bring these things to light?" So, not discounting that, the support that podcast can bring, that social media can bring. Yeah, but also going inward and saying, like, what do I need? Do I need someone in my phone? Do I need someone in my home? Do I need What kind of support do you need? And then honoring that because what you may have needed when you were having your baby started is different from me.
And then to tie this back to the pelvic and core work that you do for our listeners that are tuning in now that are pregnant, is this something that they can do while they're pregnant, or do you recommend it's solely postpartum? Help educate the group here.
Yeah, so the amazing thing about a pelvic floor is that we all have one. We have one from birth all all the way to death, and so this is something great to use in preparation for pregnancy, during pregnancy, postpartum, or even after your kids are grown and gone. If you are struggling with pelvic floor dysfunction, and some of the things that that includes would be leaking, painful intercourse, back pain, deep hip pain, like that pain in your hip that you can't really quite rub out or like stretch out, and then core, like abdominal separation, which we talked about a little bit, or even just sometimes like that mom pooch that you're like exercising and you're like, this isn't fat, but I can't control my abdomen, or if you feel like you can't exercise your core. Those are all things that we can work on at any point in pregnancy, postpartum, and so on.
And Ashley, for people that want to learn more, where can they find you? How can they become more educated?
Yeah, the best place to find me is social media. My Instagram handle is ash.sorenson, Sorenson. And we can chat there. I also have an e-course that is self-paced and it's something that you get permanent access to. So if you buy it at the beginning of your pregnancy and don't feel like you're able to use it until you're postpartum, you have full access to it in very short videos that kind of talks about like, if this is your problem, this is what we do to fix it. So you're not having to go through exercises that are not beneficial for you. Who has time for that? We're going to jump straight to what's going to help. And yeah, you can find it all there.
Ashley, thank you so much. And for those listening that are pregnant or postpartum, I think shining a light on a topic like this is so important because the last thing we want is moms going through any more pain than they already are, just experiencing both being pregnant and certainly after going through labor. And just as a quick reminder as well, Support Now is a wonderful free platform to use to show community, as Ashley alluded to go beyond the phone. So if you have a group of friends that want to drop off meals or that want to volunteer in your home or want to raise money, depending on the circumstances, please consider Support Now to provide a place, a space to mobilize those friends and family members that so desperately want to be there for you in a time that we know can be very difficult, but of course very sensitive and beautiful. Ashley, thank you again. We love, love, love bringing on experts to the podcast to better inform the moms that are listening. And I wish you so much luck and success in everything that you are set out to do.
Thank you so much. This was great.
Thanks, Ashley.